As Amy said, my name is Greg Seher. I'm a senior analyst in our research and development department. There's two main projects I'm going to be talking about today. One is our community solar project, and the other is a renewable natural gas project. So let me get started here. So community solar is something we have been looking into for a while, specifically on our landfill. So for those that don't know, community solar was an initiative that the New Jersey Board of Utilities put into effect 2019, a pilot project, a pilot program to allow community solar to be used. It basically allows for people who didn't have access to solar before to access solar. And so I'll kind of explain why that is and how that works. So before community solar was implemented, you had something called net metering. And the way net metering worked was, probably you see it all the time, people have solar on their home, their business, you might see a solar project next to some building. And that solar power from that system feeds that building. And over the course of the year, it should be about the total power used in that building. In the summer it makes more, and the winter makes less, because obviously there's more sun in the summer and less sun in the winter. And that's how you could use solar before. You had to have space on your roof or next to your home or office or wherever to put solar in, because it had to be located either directly on your property or the property next to it. That's just how the rules worked. And there's an important reason for that. You know, if you think about the electric grid as it works, you know, Atlantic City Electric or wherever you live has money invested in poles and electric lines to get power around. And so if you allow solar to be anywhere you want to use that power, then you're sort of using their lines for free. And really, that's not only it's not fair, it's just not economically something you could do. Atlantic City Electric has to make money and has to pay their bills just like anyone else does. So for years, this was the model. You put solar on your home, and that's how you can do it. However, those people that don't have homes, that live in apartments or some other sort of living situation, their office or home, did not have access to southern facing sky, whether it was trees or their roof just couldn't handle it. There's a lot of reasons why you might not be able to have solar. And so that's something that it's been an issue, because in addition to not getting the benefit of being able to use solar, everyone does pay for solar in one way or the other. In our electric bill, there's a portion of that goes to help fund solar projects. And so no matter who you are, you've been paying to have solar in New Jersey, because it is a benefit for everyone by reducing emissions. But not everyone can use it. So that's where community solar came in, and the idea of virtual net metering. And so what virtual net metering does is allow you to put solar anywhere. And then you can sort of subscribe. So rather than, say, having a small solar system just for your home, someone could go out and build a huge solar field and could get people to sign up and say, how much power do you use during the year? Okay, we're going to reserve that much power for our solar project for you. And that's what virtual net metering does. So now you can use the electrical distribution system, Atlantic City Electric or wherever. You can use their system to get solar power. You still pay a fee, but you are now able to access solar, having solar on your property. And so for people in apartments or wherever that couldn't do it before, you finally can. And one important thing that the state realized was this really affected low and moderate income folks the most, because they are the folks more likely to not have a home that can have solar. They are more likely to live in an apartment. And so the idea that people who are economically less advantaged can't take advantage of solar, that was a problem that everyone kind of saw with solar as it existed. That ultimately, if you didn't have a nice home that had roof space for solar, you were out of luck, and that just wasn't really fair for everyone. So with that taking effect, the New Jersey Board of Utilities had this pilot program out. And it's a pilot program because community solar is new. So they kind of want to test it out. They don't just want to allow community solar to go anywhere. They want to have a certain number of projects awarded that they can control and see, let's do this right, let's make sure it works. And then once we do a couple of years of this and everything works well, hopefully, then we can open up to everyone. So the ACUA applied in 2019 for the first phase of the community solar pilot program. And we were one of the projects that were awarded, I believe one of 45 projects that were awarded in the first round, which was awarded at the end of 2019. We were one of the highest scoring projects, and there's a couple reasons for that. As I mentioned, the lower moderate income folks were disadvantaged by being unable to use solar under the previous model. So the state made it a priority that any community solar project should have some sort of component where they were reaching out to low and moderate income individuals and allowing them access. And so the Atlantic County Utilities Authority, we partnered with the Pleasantville Housing Authority. We reached out to them and said, would you be interested in this? Would your residents be interested in using solar from our project? And they were on board with that. They liked that idea because ultimately it'll save them money. Their electric bills go down by using solar. So we reached out to them, and that was a big plus because we were saying all the power we generate at our solar facility will go to low and moderate income individuals, and that was really well received. Our project will be about 2 megawatts, and it's going to use our existing landfill space that is capped and closed. So if you see on your screen here, this is an aerial view of our landfill. The sort of black portions in the top, if that's the north going up, the north side and going down, those are temporarily capped. So we have a temporary cap on part of the landfill to help control landfill odors and emissions that come from the landfill, help reduce the amount of water that gets in there. And it really just overall makes the landfill more efficient by having that temporary cap on there. However, if you look at the sort of the bottom left corner where there's the yellow highlight, that is a portion that we capped and closed permanently. So that is completely finished landfill space. We did that, I would say, almost 10 years ago, maybe more than that now, with the intention of putting solar there. Years and years ago, we wanted to put solar there, and there's been many reasons why we weren't able to do it until now. But that landfill space will be where we'll have this project, and it's, again, roughly 2 megawatts. And it's very exciting that we are able to finally do this. As I mentioned, the existing model for solar was you had to have a user on site, and we didn't have a use for the solar power on the site. So now we have people that can use the solar that we can produce from our landfill. So it's very exciting because it's a win for everyone as far as we're concerned. I'm sorry, I skipped ahead there. So another important thing to kind of understand is where we're at in the project right now. So I mentioned that these were awarded at the end of 2019, and by the end I do mean sometime between Christmas and New Year's in 2019. So 2020 we were notified we could go ahead and move forward the project, and we began the process of preparing our bid documents to go out and find a vendor that would build and own the project, and we would buy power from them, and then ACUA would in turn sell that power to the residents. Of course, beginning of 2020, COVID happened, and one of the implications of that was there was a freeze on all non-essential purchasing by government agencies. So we couldn't really go out to bid and find a vendor until the summer of 2020. So in the summer of last year, we put a bid out in the street for it to select a vendor, and we did award it to ECA, a solar company. I believe they're based out of Massachusetts, who came in with the best bid, and we awarded to them in the fall. And so we are set to go right now, and we're in the process of discussions with Atlantic State Electric. As I mentioned, all these projects have to be interconnected to the grid. And so the more solar there is, the more complicated this becomes. Imagine our electric system is designed originally because it was power plants somewhere centrally located, and it took power from them and went out to all the homes. Now, when you have solar out there, that model is sort of disrupted. So that has implications on Atlantic State Electric system. So we have to make sure we're doing everything properly. So right now we're discussing with them how to best connect our system into the grid because it is a large system, and then we will be set to go. So we're hopeful that those issues are ironed out in the next month or so, and we can proceed and sort of begin construction and move ahead on this. It's very exciting. As I said, this is something that we've been looking into for over 10 years probably. So that we are this close to the finish line is great news, and it's also great because it's not just benefiting the ACUA, it's benefiting residents in Pleasantville, and it'll benefit the environment obviously by reducing emissions having the solar there. So it's something we're looking forward to, and hopefully in the next couple months we'll have more updates in our newsletter and our social media posts to give you guys news on this exciting project. And while we're talking about the landfill now, so the next project I want to talk to you about is renewable natural gas. Another exciting project that we've been trying to get going for several years now. So renewable natural gas starts the question of what is landfill gas? So those that aren't aware, when you take your trash and you put it into landfill, you have organic material, which is your food waste, shirts that are cotton, anything that's organic will eventually break down and become methane. So methane is natural gas. It's what you use to heat your home, your stove. It's something that we use as a fuel source all the time. But it's produced naturally by breaking down organic matter, whether that's fossil fuels in the ground or from a landfill or from agriculture or wherever. So our landfill does this naturally, and we collect this gas with wells and pipes in our landfill. And that's how modern landfills work, because if not, it just naturally goes in the atmosphere. So we have this very intricate collection system of wells and pipes to collect the gas and prevent it from going in the atmosphere. So right now, it's not like that just goes out in the atmosphere right now because we don't have a renewable natural gas project. We've been collecting gas for years, and since 2005, I believe, we've had a landfill gas energy project where we've been using that gas to generate electricity. We've been partnering with South Jersey Gas in this project, and we have a 3.5 megawatt system, very large, to generate electricity from our landfill gas. It powers our entire site here, and also the excess power goes to the grid. However, we still produce a lot more gas than it can be used by the system. So a lot of that gas gets flared right now, gets cleaned up and flared, which reduces its impact on the environment. But that's a waste. We know we can have a beneficial use for this. Obviously, part of that use is beneficial when you generate electricity. What else could we do? So that's what we've been looking into. What else can we do? And one of those things is renewable natural gas, meaning we clean it up and use it to replace existing natural gas. And what is a really popular thing to do with this right now is use it in vehicles and fuels. And so there are over 80 projects throughout the country that are doing this already. You can see on this map here, those blue dots are from landfills. The yellow dots are for digesters, agricultural digesters, meaning farms that have waste from their animals and their livestock. They can collect the methane coming off of that and generate renewable natural gas from that also. It's done out a lot in California. They have specific standards for their gas in California, which really encourage people to collect the gas. But you can see all over the country, there's lots of projects here, and it's even been done in our area up in Staten Island for years. So it's not something necessarily brand new, but for sustainability purposes, it's more important now than ever. Years ago, we didn't seem to care as much about wasting this gas and having it pollute the environment. Now we have a much better knowledge and awareness of what this can be used for. And as Amy mentioned in the beginning, sustainability has environmental focus, it has social justice focus, and it has an economic focus. So economically, we see the value here now. We see beyond just the environment and social justice, we see there's value here, and that really drives a lot of this, the economic value of this gas. So why would we go to renewable natural gas? And that's an important question, because we do have the existing landfill gas to electric system there. Why would we just expand that? And I think that the big reason is because the proliferation and the spread of natural gas vehicles. So ACUA has a significant portion of our fleet, almost all of our collection fleet, over 85% of our trash trucks and recycling trucks on the road are powered by natural gas right now. And natural gas is already significantly cleaner than diesel. And over half of new trash trucks on the road today are natural gas, because people realize it's much cleaner. It meets those emissions and reductions they want to see. And it's also cheaper. Natural gas fuel is cheaper than diesel fuel. So it makes economic sense for people to do this. And it's good to see that, because it's already so widespread for traditional natural gas. It's an easy switch over to renewable natural gas for other people. And, like I said, ACUA had a large collection fleet already. It's already spread out well throughout the country. These landfill gas collection systems, if you clean up that gas and create renewable natural gas from it, you've now created a sort of closed loop system. So the trash that you make and you throw out, it goes in a landfill, it becomes a gas. It's no longer getting released to the atmosphere. It's being collected, being cleaned up and put into the pipeline. And that pipeline is now feeding these trucks that are going out and collecting the gas again. So it's a really neat closed loop system of sustainability, because the things you're throwing away is now fueling the trash truck that picks it up. So I think that's a really cool technology, very innovative, very forward thinking on how we can prevent our system from being unsustainable, if you will. The core of sustainability is, does this make sense? Can we do this going forward forever? And potentially, yeah, we could do this forever. We keep on fueling our vehicles with our own waste. And that's a pretty neat idea. That's been a long time coming. Back to the Future, he throws his stuff in his car and he fuels his car with his trash, right? So that was, someone thought of that 20 some years ago, and we're finally getting around to doing that today. So that's pretty neat. And hopefully you'll see this expand more also. Like I said, people are already using natural gas for trucks. A lot of companies, Amazon, for instance, they're very interested in sustainability. Sustainability, obviously, they have a large fleet of vehicles that um, send their packages out. So, here's a company that would be really interested in fueling with renewable natural gas. So, what has to happen for us to go forward with this? Well, right now, ACUA for the last several months has been working with South Jersey Gas, along with some other interested parties, to figure out what exactly rules and procedures we need in place to put the gas into their pipeline. So the gas that breaks down the landfill is not just methane. There's obviously a lot of other stuff in our landfill besides organic waste. Everything that gets thrown away goes in the landfill, right? So there's a lot of impurities in that gas. We have to clean it up. So we really need to make sure we work with South Jersey Gas to figure out what that needs to look like, how clean it needs to be, to make sure their system isn't going to be compromised by it. We want to make sure this works for everyone. So we're working with South Jersey Gas to figure out what rules should be in place to make sure we make it safe and clean for everyone. Once we do that, we'll set up a procurement process of some sort, similar to with solar, to find a vendor to come in and help us develop the project, to build and operate this technology for us. We're not experts on cleanup of gas, so we want someone to come in and help us with that. And once we do that, then we can connect to the system and start selling our gas. And whether it's ACUA's fleet, as I mentioned, Amazon, I'm sure there's countless other companies that'd be quite interested in this. UPS already has, and FedEx, those are two delivery companies that have these large vehicles, and they've been using natural gas for years to reduce their emissions. So it's only natural they would want to go forward with renewable natural gas. And that's the goal here, is to get it out as much as possible, because natural gas already is cleaner than diesel. But once you go to renewable natural gas, you're taking something that was before an emission source and now becoming a fuel. So ultimately your emissions from those trucks are negative now, because the source of your fuel is a emissions that you've taken out of the atmosphere. So it's really a pretty neat concept that you're not only fueling your truck, but you're actually benefiting the environment by taking away what was a harmful emission source before. And I believe on the last slide, so I didn't mention the last one, but when it comes to heavy duty vehicles like trash trucks or larger delivery trucks, electric vehicle technology is great, and it's getting to the point to be more widespread. But for heavy duty vehicles, there's still a difficulty in powering those trucks and having a battery system that size and everything to allow them to operate. So natural gas, and specifically renewable natural gas, are a wonderful clean energy source for these larger duty vehicles, which can't quite be served as well with battery and electric vehicles quite yet. So it's a great bridge fuel. Renewable natural gas also acts as an interesting bridge fuel if you talk about something like hydrogen, and clean energy hydrogen generated from solar or wind could slowly be mixed in with this gas supply and become renewable and green natural gas. So there's a lot of potential down the road for renewable natural gas to act as a fuel of the future, a low emissions or zero emissions or negative emissions fuel source of the future. And that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to find a beneficial use for the gas that we're burning right now to generate revenue and help the authority, help the environment. And another important reason why this is popular now is there is something out there, the Renewable Fuel Standard, where our federal government is very interested in making sure we're using cleaner fuels when we can. And so that trickles down to this renewable natural gas, because it is viewed as a renewable fuel source. So it makes it more attractive for people because government incentivizes this. We want this to happen, so we're going to incentivize it and provide some economic benefit to it. So that's another attractive part of renewable natural gas, that is getting people on board and getting their projects on board. So you don't see it in New Jersey yet. Like I said, there's several projects in the country. We would like to be the first one here, and we're hopeful that it'll happen in the next year or so. We'll see, but we're actively and aggressively moving forward with this and hoping that will happen in the next year. So that is all I have. And any questions or comments, be free to answer any questions you guys have.
Great, thank you so much, Greg. For people who have questions, you can type them in the Q&A box or raise your virtual hand down there, and we'll be able to unmute you and you can ask Greg in person.
And I hope I didn't go too fast, Amy. Again, you do a great job always asking me questions whenever you see me around the office. So, if you think I could elaborate more, feel free to point out where I missed something.
No, I think you did a great job, but I think for people who maybe haven't heard this before, haven't had a chance to ask you a million questions, maybe there's some things that are still kind of fuzzy or unclear. So please don't feel shy asking Greg questions. He's always very patient with me when I come at him with questions, and I think you did a good job, especially. I'm thinking about the explanation of net metering. I think that's something that we hear that word all the time, or that phrase, but we don't always know. You might not know what it means. So I think you did a nice job, and I like that diagram too. That kind of showed things. So to me, it's sort of similar to purchasing wind power. So that's something I do at my house and with power. So it's not that the power from the wind farm is coming right to my house, but it's going into the grid. They're measuring how much electricity I use at my house. And then the utility company is purchasing X amount of wind power from the wind farm and, making it available to me, basically, sort of.
And this is a great step forward for solar to kind of help everyone access it. I have solar in my house now, but for years I didn't. I wanted to. I don't have southern facing roof, but I have kind of southern facing. I think it became cheap enough where the solar company said, okay, now we can put it on your house. It's not perfect, but it's economically viable enough. So I eventually was able to get in, but a lot of people can't. And if I didn't have it on my roof, I would certainly be interested in community solar when it becomes more widespread and accessible after the pilot program is finished and they sort of implement it on the full scale level. And to that point too, so those 45 projects that were selected last time, it was well over 100 applicants all across the state. They just solicited for a second round for community solar, which I believe they were due, I think the end of February, end of March. So they'll be probably evaluating those proposals for round two right now and announcing those coming forward. And the lessons that we learned in the first round of getting our project off the ground were helpful for the state to figure out what they want to do for round two. So this is a pilot project for a reason, because we are learning lessons of how this can be implemented and what are the best ways to do it. So I know the state was very interested in how we were doing and what was going on with our project, because there were things that we learned that we didn't know before. And it's helping them going forward, both in this pilot program and then once they decide how it works full time. And I think once they figure out a full-time project, a full-time program, and what that would look like, that'll be so much more accessible to everyone. And I think you'll see probably less solar on rooftops and more people just buying into those, because economics of scale. So it's always going to be cheaper to build a huge system than it is to build individual rooftop systems. So you'll probably see a lot of community solar projects pop up and people just buying into those rather than putting on their own, which will be interesting to see how that all works out. I know some people say, oh, I don't like it on my roof. I don't know how it looks. It doesn't bother me, but obviously everyone's still different. So I think people that feel that way might be very encouraged to do the community solar process.
So a question, this pilot program through the BPU, it is for 3 years, is that correct?
Correct. Well, there'll be 3 rounds of the program. So like I said, ours was awarded at the end of 2019. They have yet to award round 2 yet, so it's not going to be exactly year to year, but there'll be 3 phases and they'll kind of be 2019, 2020, and 2021, around there. So they'll award phase 2 sometime in the next couple months, and then they'll probably roll out round 3 of it at the end of this year going into 2022. And then I guess they'll sort of see how everything works out and figure out what they want to do long term.
Great. So we have a question from Dara. Thanks for sharing the sustainable practices that ACUA is trying to implement. Will ACUA be creating a plant to clean up the methane to create the RNG, or will ACUA be sending the methane to a third party for cleanup and then work with South Jersey Gas to distribute the RNG?
Yeah, so that might have been a little confusing. We will develop a facility on our site here, either on our site or adjacent, depending on our property and where it can fit in. But it'll be done at the ACUA. The ACUA may or may not own the project. Basically, we'll partner with someone to clean up on our site, and then it'll go into the system. So there will be a partnership, but the partnership will be done at ACUA before it goes into the natural gas system. Hopefully that clarifies the question.
And for people who might not be familiar with it, could you talk to us briefly about the BPU? We talk about the Board of Public Utilities, and kind of what they do, what their purpose is.
Sure. So this is one of those terms that we're entrenched in, but everyone understands. So the Board of Public Utilities is the regulatory agency that oversees utilities. So people probably are more familiar with something like the Department of Environmental Protection, the DEP. What they do is they are monitoring your waterways and that sort of stuff. They're concerned with the environment. The Board of Public Utilities regulates how utilities work. So let's just say New Jersey American Water, your water company, or Lansing Electric, utilities like that, South Jersey Gas, if they want to raise rates or do certain things, they want to increase their infrastructure, they want to do anything that will affect your rates, they have to go to the Board of Public Utilities to get those things approved. And so in addition to that, they're obviously tasked with energy as a whole, including clean energy projects like solar. And they'll probably have some sort of say in our renewable natural gas project as well, because they're in charge of regulating and overseeing utilities. So they implement the clean energy program, which allows for solar, allows for wind, allows for other projects. They do grants through these programs. They do energy efficiency. So many of you may have done energy efficiency projects in your home, whether it's insulation or windows or lighting or anything of that sort that affects the energy use in your home. There are grant programs available through the state, even just simply an energy audit, so you can get an energy audit of your home for free, where someone will come in and again check your insulation, your windows, check your lighting, check your refrigerator if it's that efficient or not, to see what upgrades could be made. They'll give you recommendations so you know what to do. They may even actually tell you how much it might save you, so you can understand that, well, if I put $1,000, $2,000 up front, my payback will be 3 years or whatever. So they have some good tools for understanding that as well. So it's not just renewable energy, it's energy in every aspect. And energy efficiency is really the first key to it all. So if we're building solar and wind for stuff that isn't efficient, then we're wasting power anyway. So we want to get the energy efficiency squared away first, and that's a big component. And that's something that happens on the building scale in your home, your office, wherever.
That's a really good point. A lot of people don't think about the efficiency and energy efficiency as being as important as it is. There's a lot of exciting projects, but first things first with efficiency.
Yeah, the little buzzword of the low hanging fruit. If you can change your light bulb out and save and cut that energy use by your light bulb 50%, that's just as important, if not more important, than putting a solar panel on your home. Or if you can put new windows in or patch a hole in the roof that's leaking heat in the winter, that's just as important as anything else.
Yeah, I think we're really lucky here in New Jersey because we do have a lot of programs, like you mentioned, that can help people out to make those changes.
Yeah. And like I said, the BPU, they have their website. They have a lot of information on this. And here at the ACUA, we're always happy to talk to people and help them navigate their way. So you can always reach out to us and contact whomever, and it'll probably come to me at some point or the other, and I'll get back to you and try to give you some tips on what you can do.
Great. Yeah, any other questions? Keep them coming. Greg, is there, just to ask you a little bit about the work you do here, are there particular skills or, a background that you brought to this position that?
Yeah. So I have an undergraduate degree in political science. My master's degree is in environmental science. So I have that education background. Before I worked for the ACUA, I worked at the county Atlantic County Planning Office. So sort of the idea of planning, which people might not realize has a large environmental focus to it too. Of designing or thinking about how the city should operate, and roads and buildings, where things should be built. So sort of a planning, project management type background, and again, environmental science, having a working understanding of how this all, um, plays out with sustainability and that sort of thing. And again, from undergrad, from political science side, policy, and those sort of issues. So that's, I would say, the background I have. There's a couple of people that have worked in my department have, or at currently or previously, and have had similar backgrounds in either environmental science or policy, or even information technology, because there's a lot of, on our end, a lot of understanding information, analyzing data. So finance also is another background there too. Obviously, as Amy mentioned, things have to work economically. So being able to understand the economics of these projects, it's all really important. And that, people always ask, oh, you work for the ACUA, you're environmentalist. I said, well, actually, I just like to refer to myself as a sustainabilist. That's a word. I don't know what it is, but because I think, it all has to work together. Amy, like you said, we'd love to do every project out there, but ultimately, if the dollars don't work, then it's never going to get done. You have to make sure everyone understands they're on the same page, and that there's some benefit to everyone. And if there isn't, you figure out how could there be a benefit. Talk about policy and shaping policy to make sure that the economic benefit is there for someone. So it has to make sense. We can't just do everything we want to do. Unfortunately, we can't. We'd like to, but we can't. So.
Great, thanks. And I think having a lot of patience has paid off too, because like you mentioned, some of these projects have been many years in the making, and it's a matter of waiting for for circumstances to everything to align, whether it's policy or economics or finding the right partner. It's you really you and the rest of the team, it's great to see these projects happen, and it's got to be difficult when when you come across roadblocks along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've been here 15 years, so I came in right after a lot of our bigger projects that are notable were completed. The original landfill gas project, our wind farm, the solar that we have at our wastewater facility, those had all just been completed. So there was a lot of big things that were completed. And so seeing all that come in, I'm thinking, oh, wow, look how easy it is to do all this stuff. We can get all this stuff done. And it's certainly not that simple. We've done our compressed natural gas fueling station, which took some work, and that got completed. And now we're finally going to hopefully see solar on our landfill, renewable natural gas. And one of the projects I feel like working on forever is landfill alternative, some sort of waste energy project. We have nothing concrete right now, but it's something we've been evaluating for a while. And we've gotten close a couple times, and the floor's fallen out underneath us, unfortunately. But I think that's still something that will happen. I think everyone, especially here in New Jersey in the Northeast, realize you can't just bury the trash in the ground forever, because we're running out of space here. We're not like the Midwest or the further out where they've got a lot of land and they keep on burying. We see Europe and Asia, they do waste energy, they do it well, and they do it safely. So we'll get there at some point. The joke was, when I started, that I was tasked with this because everyone else was going to be retired by the time we had to replace our landfill. So 15 years later, we're still trying to find it, and we'll get there eventually. And the good thing about the renewable natural gas project also is it does allow for other pathways to landfill alternatives, because by having that infrastructure in place, you have an off-taker, you have an existing sort of avenue to get your fuel that you've created from your waste and getting into a system. So it's sort of infrastructure in the ground that a waste energy project could connect into, and make it more economically viable, because they don't have to set up that system to connect into the natural gas grid. It's already there. You talk to organic diversion, that sort of stuff. We can, take your organics and treat them in many different methods and create renewable natural gas from them outside the landfill by having the renewable natural gas project already in place. It connects right into there, kind of plug in, and it bodes well for that. So hopefully that'll be a nice carrot to kind of maybe bring someone in and get a new project here.
Great. And so how long after a landfill closes, the gas is still produced?
Yeah, so all that depends on what sort of waste is in the landfill. Your typical garbage, your household waste has a lot of organics in it, and there's something called a landfill gas curve, which is when you put the waste in the landfill right away, it takes time for it to decompose and produce gas. And so that gas curve is typically something along the lines of 15 years from once you put it in the landfill to when you stop producing gas. And so imagine, a chart there, and then, starts at zero, ends at zero. It goes for 15 years. So somewhere in the middle of that chart, around year 7 or 8, it's peaking, it's producing the most gas it will, and then it'll slow down and go back down to zero or close to zero. So, when we put the last piece of garbage or trash waste into our landfill, it'll be about 15 years before that gas is completely generated and used. But even that is not a perfect number. Landfills that are closed throughout the state, or not necessarily closed, but no longer active, they're still maintaining their landfill gas wells and monitoring for 30 years out, so that it never really stops. That's another interesting issue in New Jersey is there's sort of a 30-year window that they consider landfill once it's closed, that you're finished closing it. But after 30 years, it's not like it's returned to nature at that point. It's still a closed landfill that's still going to have stuff going on inside it underneath the cap. And so even after we are done putting our trash in the landfill and we've closed it and it's 30 years later and we are all much older at that point, the landfill will still need monitoring and maintaining. And I don't know what will come of our landfill once it's closed here. Other places have golf courses. I doubt our landfill will do that. It's kind of too big for that, but maybe a little sledding hill or something, I don't know. Nature reserve of some sort, but well after it's closed, there'll still be gas being produced, and we'll still be monitoring, maintaining, and keeping everything safe.
Great. We have another question. What can ACUA do to further promote switching to RNG to private companies who use fleets of large vehicles like dump trucks, like the trucks that haul sand away from places here in South Jersey, or construction companies?
Well, so we've been promoting CNG as much as we can already, but I think getting the visibility out there of how much of a benefit this is to the company. So economically, it is obviously always the first thing that people look at, these companies, if they're looking to switch over. And for CNG, like I said, 50% of trash trucks are already switching over. So people see that economically it works. Each truck, and depending on the use, is really what drives it. If you're a trash truck like the ACUA, or perhaps like a delivery truck like UPS or a FedEx or whatever, you're sort of going a similar route every day and returning back to your home base. So you can kind of always count on, well, I can get back to here and fuel up every day. As widespread as natural gas fueling and hopefully renewable natural gas fueling will be someday, it's still not as widely available as diesel and gasoline, where you have stations at every corner. So the first thing is, if the fleet is located near us, that really helps. And if they're returning here every day, and if they're not returning here every day, if they're going somewhere else, hopefully the route that they're going on is somewhere where there's a fueling station there. And it's important to know that renewable natural gas and existing natural gas are interchangeable for the vehicle. So if they are getting it one day, not renewable natural gas, and they can't get it the next day, they're only getting regular natural gas, that's okay. The vehicle is still going to run. They might want to use renewable natural gas, but it's not going to impact their operations if they can't. The other important thing to understand is when the gas goes into the pipeline, so it's sort of, as Amy explained, when she's buying wind power at her home, once a wind farm is generating power and it's going into the grid, it's sort of going wherever it's going. It's just going out there. And so you are when you buy power from that, you're saying, I want you to reserve some of that generation for me. I'm not actually getting that generation myself physically, but I am buying what you generated. So economically, we're sort of tied together. So from that perspective, when we put renewable gas into the pipeline, hopefully soon, someone in Pennsylvania or Oklahoma or wherever could make a claim to that, because if realistically, the natural gas pipes in the United States are all sort of connected. So if that gas could somehow flow from here in Ann Arbor Township, New Jersey, to Oklahoma City, even though it's not actually going to get there, they could say, well, that connection was there, and I want to buy some of your gas. That's renewable gas, so I'm going to take it. So, and that's where larger companies like an Amazon or Google or companies that have big and ambitious sustainability goals will make an impact, because they'll want to buy up that renewable natural gas no matter where it's produced. Hopefully it's near where the facility is at and they're actually getting something close to it. But if not, they're still helping the project along, because by buying that gas, they are helping the project economically. They're making that project work. They're the customer for the project. So I don't know if that fully answers your question. How we can convince companies to do so. I think the first thing really is just we do it first, and people see that it works. They see that we save money. So ACUA like to count our success, so we count our success with our natural gas trucks now, and hopefully more companies will see that. And I'm hopeful that when we do the renewable natural gas project, it'll be pretty noteworthy. We'll get some news coverage, and that'll obviously spur some people into be interested into it. It's a lot of it has to do with your corporate goals and your personal goals, and if you want to do it and you don't.
Great. And I couldn't believe when you said that over half the trash trucks, is that globally run on CNG?
United States. I'm not sure how globally it works. I know there's certain places. I think India, for example, has their passenger vehicles. A lot of them are natural gas. Just they have it. That's just they're used to over there. But yeah, the United States in the last 10 years or so, it's been a big switch over again, with more focus on sustainability, so those emissions are lower. There's more of a regulation on diesel trucks for a lot of these big vehicles. So rather than constantly having to deal with upgrading or managing their diesel filters and that sort of stuff and meeting those standards, and this is what we did as well. We just said, we'll skip over all that and we'll just go right to natural gas because it's cleaner. And then, with the renewable natural gas one day, and it's even better. So companies realize that it works out for them economically, and the more people buy into, the better it becomes, because even though it's half the trucks are natural gas, it's still not necessarily the normal engine type and everything, right? So the more people start getting natural gas vehicles, the more the production becomes streamlined and gets produced. And again, economies of scale for everything. It helps us out. So just as solar has got cheaper, the more it's been implemented, natural gas trucks are getting cheaper as well. So the natural gas trucks right now are more expensive than diesel trucks, but you save the money on the fuel. So the closer that price point for the natural gas versus diesel trucks becomes zero difference, then your savings are even greater on your fuel costs. So there's a lot of things that are pushing that needle.
Yeah, it's exciting. There's a lot of changes on the horizon. All right. I don't know if there's any other questions, but I'm not seeing any right now. Brian, do you have any other thoughts? Anything you wanted to mention and didn't get to?
I don't think so. But again, I'm happy to answer other questions. Anyone watching this, a replay of this, or feel free to contact us here at the ACUA, and you can get in touch with me. And so we're happy to provide information on our projects, as well as answer questions that things residents can do on their own. Whether you're looking to do solar on your own, we can at least point you in the right direction